Jeremy Horn, he continues his march.
Now a great job by Jeremy Horn for the official word. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner by tap out due to an armbar at 2 minutes 8 seconds in the first round for the winner, Jeremy Horn.
Good job, baby. Good job.
Jeremy Horn continues to improve, and now showing that he can compete with some of the heavyweights. A very active guard here. He's never just laying on his back. He's constantly moving his hips, and right there, he just transitioned very quickly, very smoothly into that arm bar. Godsey really never saw it coming. Boom, that quick. Locks it right up, and you see Godsey tapping immediately. Jeremy respecting the tap, disengaging.
So let's get back towards our middleweights. We have two middleweight matches now to end the evening. Paul Jones and Chuck Lidell. These are both guys who can throw the leather, especially Lidell, the kickboxer, as he takes on the wrestler Paul Jones in a middleweight matchup here tonight in Lake Charles. Now they call him the Iceman, Chuck Lidell, to take on the shoot fighter Paul Jones. And Jones impressive in his debut against Flavio Mora, winning at UFC 21 out of Boys Ranch, Texas. Not far down the road outside of Amarillo, and Chuck Liddell a little further to travel from San Luis Obispo, California. Born in Santa Barbara, and his UFC record, as was just mentioned, 1-1. He would like a rematch someday with Jeremy Horn. Right now, Liddell is still cut at 199 in a middleweight, and Jones about the same. And a world champion kickboxer, Chuck Liddell, he likes to throw strikes, Jeff.
He absolutely does. He's great on his feet, striking ability. With that tall, lanky body, he has some good reach. He's able to connect from outside. I really think this is what he's going to try to do against Paul Jones, is to keep him outside and use his stand-up. Now
the decoration on the side of his head, the tattoos, I asked him yesterday, it means a place of peace and prosperity.
You got any questions about anything?
In between the ears of Chuck Liddell, the Iceman, the kickboxer, 29 years old. Liddell's opponent, a shoot fighter. Excellent grappling skills. He studied judo, he studied sambo, he's been doing lots of work on his conditioning. He's a quiet man, a father, a husband, a teacher, and a coach. Married with 3 daughters, wrestled in Iowa and Nebraska. And man, oh man, what a debut it was for Paul Jones, who beat the Brazilian Mora in 421 by tap out. And he won by the rear naked choke, but he took some hits in that fight.
Start the fight off, he ate a punch and it nearly set him down. I mean, he was stunned by it, but he was able to recover, get to his takedown, able to put his opponent down and eventually win.
The tail of the tape, age difference for sure, 7 years. And Jones is short, compact, and Liddell already, you would think on paper, the better striker, and he does have a reach advantage in this first of 2 middleweight matchups. The big one still ahead, Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz. But first things first, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, this next event is a middleweight bout consisting of 3 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. He is a kickboxer with a mixed martial arts record of 3-1. Standing 6 feet, 2 inches tall, weighing in at 199 pounds. He fights out of San Luis Obispo, California. Please welcome back, Chuck Liddell. And his opponent, standing to my right, he is a shoot fighter with a mixed martial arts record of 18-0-1. Standing 5 feet 9 inches tall, weighing in at 198 pounds. He comes to us from Boys Ranch, Texas. Please welcome Paul Jones.
Head wrestling coach and football coach at Boys Ranch High School. That man works with the Los Angeles Police Department. He's our veteran referee, Big John McCarthy.
Are you ready? Let's get it on!
My favorite words, and here we go, the middleweights.
John Peretti, how much will the kicking of Chuck Liddell play into this?
I think it's important, but Jones has got more experience in this, and I think it'd be nice to keep him away, but Jones isn't going to be afraid of him. Lidell was a good wrestler. Jones is a better wrestler, but the well-roundedness I think is really important.
Well, no surprise to anyone that Paul Jones has said his best scenario is to get it to the ground. He does not want to fight, if you will, in Chuck Liddell's world.
Chuck Liddell wasn't beaten by Jeremy Horn because he was a better wrestler. Jeremy Horn beat him because he was a better jiu-jitsu guy. Jones is in trouble if Liddell can handle him as a wrestler. What do you think, John?
I agree with that. And really what's helping Chuck Liddell is he's joined Team Punishment and he's working with Tito Ortiz. And Tito Ortiz is a good wrestler, very good wrestler, and certainly can help Chuck Liddell with a lanky body similar to Tito Ortiz be able to learn how to defend against takedowns. And thus far against Paul Jones, he's doing just that. Ooh, big knee.
John, you as a matchmaker have to be so impressed when you find these fighters smart enough to put their egos aside and learn the other skills so they can truly be successful.
It's really rare, I'll tell you right now. And it's really rare with wrestlers because usually wrestlers have that one gear that's so driven, so I find it really rare. I think Chuck is growing here. Now Paul's playing into a terrible position against the kickboxer.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you get kicked in the elbow or you get kicked in the face. Coleman, Pete Williams is an example of that.
Jones went under him and strained for over 2 minutes trying to get it, well, nearly 2 minutes trying to get a takedown. And I believe he is arm weary at this point. He looked exhausted. You don't put your hands on your knees unless you are in a big anaerobic state.
If a guy a long time ago ever put his hands on his knees, here comes a knee, by the way, then you kick him in the elbow because he's got so much weight on his arm.
And Jones appears to have a case of fatigue real early. There's the high kick, and he just missed.
By the way, he never saw it. Jones is very good at that single leg tackle, but I don't know where it's going to go. Aren't you supposed to go behind, Jeff?
Well, at this point here, you want to spin on it. Now he can come up with it. Now he can come up with it. But he's electing to stay down, and that's not going to help him. They're bound up against the fence, and that's only going to help Liddell because he's not going to collapse to his hip. The fence is holding him up.
3 times 5 again. 3 5-minute rounds in this middleweight matchup.
This isn't going to go that far.
There's no way Paul Jones, it looked like, with his conditioning level, is going to be able to go the distance. He's just hanging on here, what we call stalemate wrestling. And Liddell should take advantage of it and start striking.
But we've seen Chuck show no shyness from striking all over the place, and it'll be interesting to see when he really throws an all-out assault here.
When you start to get at the top of the pyramid, just small differences are so important. Here Liddell has got a little experience, and it's working for him.
Chuck Liddell cannot hold on to the fence. John McCarthy warns him. Chuck wisely lets go. But he was able to free, I don't think it was in danger, John and Jeff, I think you'll agree, but he was able to free the ankle, and now he's in control again.
Paul's in trouble.
Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Paul's in big trouble. Paul is cut, and John McCarthy has stopped the fight.
I think it's a medical stoppage.
It's a medical stoppage, fair enough.
Medical stoppage.
Did he stop it, or is it, yeah, that's what I thought.
It's all over.
The cut was open over the left eye of Paul Jones, and there it is. Now it's over.
The end of the fight.
It is over, and Chuck Liddell victorious here in the heavyweight matchup over Paul Jones.
He's really proved that he has really gotten better.
And if he is working out with Tito Ortiz, it seems to be showing. Ortiz.
You okay?
It's showing there. He's got his own T-shirt.
Excited in the corner of Chuck Liddell, Scott Adams, John Lewis, John Hackelman, and they are excited to see what is still ahead tonight with Team Punishment and Tito Ortiz. This is how it ended.
That's after he already had eaten that punch. It was a left hand by Liddell or an elbow that opened up the cut on Paul Jones, and he retreated from it, and John McCarthy, quick to see the damage, stepped in, and when they took him to the corner, the fight was stopped.
Well, Paul's fatigue set in very early, and for the official word, we now go inside the octagon, and the veteran voice ready to give the official decision, Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, Big John McCarthy has stopped the fight at 3:53 of the first round due to a cut. For the winner, Chuck Lidell.
Well, John, what do you think is next for someone like a Chuck Liddell?
He's got to step up stylistically now. He's got to step up stylistically now. It's very important that he goes against, leg lockers. The Japanese are probably the way to go for him now, because it's such a different game. That Kosaka, I'm not ever, excited, turn on my back, I'll go for a leg, that kind of game. Well, there's a lot of middleweight Japanese out there like that.
Now we've got a very special announcement to make, and for that we go inside the octagon. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, I would like to introduce to you the President and CEO of SCG Sports, promoters of the UFC, Mr. Robert Meyerowitz.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank Lake Charles, Louisiana for a great crowd, great hospitality. Give yourselves a hand. The diversity of the UFC is that this time we're here in Lake Charles, Louisiana. Our next show will be November 14th in Tokyo, Japan. I would like to introduce my partner, the president of UFC J, the man who will bring the UFC to Japan in November, Mr. Kuroki, who would like to say a few words to all of our fans in Japan.
Thank you. We will have a great UFC fight in Tokyo on November 14th. Thank you, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
So mark it down right now, November 14th from Tokyo, Japan. And tonight, a great fight took place, as we say, in the dark, between Brad Kohler and his opponent earlier. We will take you back to our preliminary heavyweight matchup involving Brad Kohler and Steve Judson. Now, our second preliminary fight of the night will be a heavyweight matchup between Brad Kohler, who will re-enter the octagon for the first time since UFC Japan in December of '97, and he will take on newcomer Steve Judson from the discipline of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Judson was born in Huntsville, Alabama, and is fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona. And Steve Judson, married with 2 daughters, has a strong camp, which includes David Dodd and Megaton Diaz, and he is looking forward to showing his stuff today and has a good experience in the sport of pancrase. Steve Judson, 30 years old, 6'1", 220 pounds. Key elements to his ability, his groundwork, and his submission. And talking about Brad Kohler, he said, hey, I know he's a little tank that's got a lot of gas. And it will be a different type of fighter that Steve Judson will face here tonight, led in by David Dodd, a UFC veteran in his own right. And Steve Judson enters the octagon for the first time in his UFC career.
Judson, a good jiu-jitsu specialist. He has been working on his strike defense because he feels Kohler can be coming out and hitting him, and he comes from that Brazilian jiu-jitsu background. So look for him to try to get on the ground, go for submissions.
Now Brad Kohler, a former state champion wrestler in the state of Ohio. Born in a suburb of Cleveland, Fairview Park, Ohio, now fighting out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. He is short and compact, 5'9", nearly 230 pounds, 35 years old. In the past, he had wrestled and trained with the likes of Rico Chiapparelli and the Hammer House, which includes Mark Coleman. He trained at Ohio State and Cleveland State. Now he's kind of gone off on his own, but he's also had an opportunity to pick up the camp of Pat Miletich, and he thinks that will help him. Feels like he's got a great support system for the fight here this evening. Speed, 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 ground and pound, and on a little tank like that, you often wonder, what part of the body can you grab? Kohler is 5 years older. He gives up 4 inches, but the weight is, as I said, pretty much the same at 234 and 230 for this matchup between Brad Kohler and Steve Judson. For the official introduction of our second preliminary matchup, this in the heavyweight division, we go inside the octagon to Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our next bout is a heavyweight alternate bout consisting of 2 5-minute rounds. Beginning with the fighter standing to my left. This is a jiu-jitsu expert with a mixed martial arts record of 4-0. Standing 6 feet, 1 inch tall, weighing in at 230 pounds, and fighting out of Phoenix, Arizona, please welcome Steve Judson. Martial arts record of 14-4. Standing 5 feet, 9 inches tall, weighing in at 234 pounds. Fighting out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, please welcome Brad Kohler. Oh man, we gotta fix this.
So Brad Kohler against Steve Judson. And our referee once again, Big John McCarthy. They clear the octagon, and Kohler and Judson, 2 heavyweights, looking to go at it toe-to-toe here in our matchup. Number 2, the preliminary fight today.
All right, here we go. You ready, Steve? Are you ready, Brad? Let's get it on. Come on.
Here we go. Judson and Kohler. Kohler dancing quickly.
Kohler's very explosive. Early on, he's just unbelievably powerful. Quick double leg by Kohler. Now let's see what he's picked up in the world of submission.
He quickly tries to get into a choke submission.
Front headlock here again. Wrestler using front headlock and a knee as a backup.
Kohler does have great speed and good lateral movement. Oh my goodness! Wow!
That's it.
I'll tell you what, Jeff, that is as impressive as we have seen of a knockout in a long time. That fight was earlier tonight as Brad Kohler knocked out Steve Judson. Steve was taken to a local hospital. He has been released. He is just fine, and he will be back to fight in the future. But impressive for Brad Kohler.
Well, Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz are getting ready. It's our main event, the middleweight championship. Title is up for grabs here at the UFC, and I think people have been waiting at least a year for this fight, and certainly with Tito Ortiz's success through his last couple of fights that included Guy Metzger and Jerry Bolander of the Lions Den has created a lot of tension, I think is the best word, between the Ortiz and Shamrock camp.
Well, Ken Shamrock has certainly been separated from little brother Frank in a lot of ways, but still, Guy and Jerry are Frank's friends. But Frank has been quick also to say that this fight is not for those guys. He respects him, he loves him, he always will. This fight is for himself. And Frank wants to once again establish himself, or reestablish, depending on how you look at it, as the greatest fighter in the world. And so far, and you will be reminded of it right now, he has been as impressive as anyone.
Frank Shamrock is the undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world. Maybe the finest under 200-pound fighter to ever enter the octagon. Shamrock made his UFC debut at Ultimate Japan in December of '97. On paper, the fight looked great. Shamrock, the submission expert, former King of Pancrase versus Kevin Jackson, Olympic gold medalist, undefeated in the octagon.
There you go, Kevin. You got him. You got him. Let's go right down, right down. Bring him back. Put the arm on.
The UFC had crowned its first middleweight champion, and his name was Frank Shamrock. Eager to defend his new title, Shamrock agreed to fight former Extreme Fighting champion 3 months later at the UFC 16 in New Orleans. Again, the fight looked great on paper. Again, the same result.
Oh my! He's out! He's out cold! He's out cold! He dropped him on his head. He's out cold!
Frank Shamrock defends his title!
Frank Shamrock had spent 46 seconds in the octagon and executed a perfect armbar and a devastating double leg takedown. He was now 2-0 and still hadn't broken sweat.
I'll do anything. I'll fight anyone. You bring them on. I don't care who they are, what they've done. I'm up.
His next defense would come not so easily, however. It took the champion the entire regulation and 2 minutes in the overtime period to pull out the victory over then-rookie Jeremy Horn during UFC Night of Champions. A scare to the champion, but Frank Shamrock had again successfully defended his title.
Frank Shamrock defends the middleweight title.
For his next defense, Shamrock would travel all the way to Sao Paulo, Brazil to take on John the Machine Lober. Lober held the distinction of being the only man to ever defeat Shamrock in mixed martial arts competition, and the champion came in ready to seek revenge. Shamrock dominated and punished Lober before winning by tap out. The normally reserved champion showed that when he wanted to turn it on, there was no one in the world who could handle him.
My plan was to beat the crap out of him. I really didn't like what he was saying and how he was carrying himself, so I made him quit. I made him tell me to stop. I made him say, I quit, I give up, please don't hit me anymore. I made him cry uncle.
And so tonight, almost an entire year since his last appearance in the octagon, Frank Shamrock returns to the UFC. His belt up for grabs for the 4th time. He faces perhaps his most difficult opponent yet in Tito Ortiz. And with family, honor, and Lion's Den pride on the line, there's no question that Frank Shamrock means business.
I'll tell you what, you love and admire that particular shot of Frank Shamrock.
Oh, when he's sitting there pacing or bobbing back and forth in front of that fence, looks like a caged animal. Very intense individual. And really, aside from fighting, he's one of the most personable guys around, a jokester.
And so is Tito Ortiz, and he is now known as the Huntington Beach Bad Boy. If this year has belonged to any middleweight, it's belonged to Tito. And tonight he gets a chance to reign supreme.
Call him cocky. Call him rude. Call him good.
I come in here and you let my fight do the talking.
Tito Ortiz enters the octagon tonight as the #1 contender in the UFC's middleweight division. Big, powerful, and focused, Tito has elevated himself to the highest level of mixed martial arts competition and set himself up for a shot at Frank Shamrock's title. In doing so, he's not only reinvented himself as a fighter, but has taken out 2 of Shamrock's former training partners and personally declawed the Lion's Den.
2 straight wins against the Lion's Den, and Ken Shamrock is upset.
I'd be upset as hell too. I beat up on his 2 #1 contenders in the room. Kind of beat up the little alley cats and sent him back to the litter box.
When Tito appeared at UFC 18, fans hadn't seen him since his controversial loss to Guy Mezger way back at UFC 13. The Tito Ortiz that dismantled favorite Jerry Bolander that night was a bigger, stronger, more mature fighter than the amateur who lost at UFC 13. Tito was back and packing serious heat.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on! Come on!
At UFC 19, Ortiz would get his chance to redeem his only loss in the octagon. Lion's Den fighter Guy Mezger was the opponent. Same camp, same result. Ortiz out-muscled Mezger throughout, and referee John McCarthy stopped the fight. Tito Ortiz had knocked off 2 of the best middleweight fighters in the world, who also happened to be 2 of Frank Shamrock's training partners, and 2 of Ken Shamrock's proteges. The scene was ripe for high tensions, and something had to give.
Ken Shamrock very upset with the disrespect shown towards the Lion's Den corner.
So tonight, Tito Ortiz looks to knock off another, albeit former Lion's Den fighter in champion Frank Shamrock. Both swear it's all business, but there's a feeling that this one is personal. Either way, this is the biggest fight of Tito Ortiz's young career.
Oh, baby. Partner, are you ready?
I've been waiting for this for a long time. I think these are 2 of the best that have ever entered the octagon.
I'm ready. You're ready. As Big John would say, let's get it on. The Huntington Beach Bad Boy, 24 years old, 3-1 in the UFC. Bring on the Den, and now he takes on the graduate of the Den. On Frank Shamrock, Tito has said, I think that Frank is the best fighter pound for pound right now, but this should be my best test. I will perform well. I think this will be the best fight of the century.
I couldn't agree with him more. And there's Tito, great stand-up skills, and what he's really done is been able to avoid submission. And I'm looking at a guy running around in bare feet. I've been told that he's been training some kickboxing, and I think that's why he took the shoes off.
John Lober in his corner, along with John Spencer. Here he is, the middleweight champion of the world, Frank Shamrock. Part of the alliance, led by his wife Angelina, Tsuyoshi Kusaka, and Maurice Smith. He's been working out with the Stanford wrestling team from San Jose, California. 26-year-old champion, 4-0 in the UFC, Frank Shamrock.
Well, Frank is a submission master, a versatile striker who's really been working hard on both leg kicks and his punching ability. And Frank never seems to get tired inside the octagon.
All right, best of luck.
Tail of the tape should include one thing verbally. Frank Juarez Shamrock, as he is still appealing towards his own identity. 26 and 24, 5'10", 6'2". Watch for the reach of Tito Ortiz, and that was his weigh-in weight at 199. He's about 215. There's a definitive weight advantage for Tito Ortiz. Just quiet for 1 second. There is anticipation in the house tonight. There is anticipation for this matchup. This is what it's all about. Here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The moment of truth has arrived. This is the main event of the evening. This 5-round middleweight bout will determine the UFC middleweight champion of the world. Remember, both of these men have entered the octagon as true warriors, and they both know that only one will leave a champion. Let's begin with the fighter standing to my left. He is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 3-1. He is a veteran of UFC 13, UFC 18, and UFC 19. Standing 6 feet 2 inches tall, weighing in at 199 pounds. He is the #1 UFC contender for the middleweight crown. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back the bad boy from Huntington Beach, California, Tito Ortiz. And to my right, you all know this man. He is a submission fighter with a UFC record of 4-0. He is a veteran of Ultimate Japan, UFC 16, Night of Champions, and Ultimate Brazil. Standing 5 feet 10 inches tall, weighing in at 198 pounds. He's fighting out of San Jose, California. Ladies and gentlemen, he is the 4-time undefeated, undisputed UFC middleweight champion of the world, Frank Shamrock.
All the talking, all the anticipation has come to a close, and now it is time for Big John McCarthy to yell out those 4 famous words.
Here we go. UFC middleweight championship, are you ready? Are you ready? Let's get it on!
I am tingling here. I love both these athletes. It's going to be hard to pick a winner. And right away, Shamrock kicks. And this is what I thought might happen, is that Tito might catch the leg and bring him down, but he wants to go stand up, and there it'll be. Tito wants to test the stand up. Frank obliges him.
We saw Frank with great stand-up the last time he was inside the octagon against John Lober. They've been waiting a long time to entangle. Respect, but no love lost.
Frank immediately turning to face his opponent, trying to get in a half guard.
Ortiz delivers some shots. And he is going to allow, I would think, Shamrock up again. Shamrock trying to work the legs from the bottom, and now they're back up on their feet. Tito Ortiz, former sparring partner of Tank Abbott's, against Frank Shamrock. Almost got the leg caught again.
Well, he's prepared. I mean, he's done some kickboxing. He wanted to learn how people kick and what he could do with it. So he anticipated Shamrock shooting on him, kicking him.
Oh, look at the flexibility and mobility of Shamrock. He's spinning out of that.
He is such a, he was looking for a submission there. He's trying to tie up an arm. He is so flexible and at the same time mobile in the guard. Very active athlete.
Does he move his hips there to try to gain position, Jeff?
Exactly. That's exactly what he was doing. He nailed the arm. He just couldn't set the position to lock it up.
I mean, he shot Kevin Jackson in Japan, setting the submission. Now Tito's going to work the ribs, and Frank checks off to his corner and Maurice Smith.
And that might be Tito's biggest weakness, is he tries to stalemate and avoid the submissions. Frank's a master of them. So if Frank can keep this active guard going, he might be able to catch Tito in transition. Most people attack you with a one-move burst, and that's all. Frank attacks you with a constant direction where he's always moving and waiting to see your reaction and trying to anticipate. And when he does anticipate correctly, he tries to set up the submission again.
This one is slated for 5 rounds, 5 minutes
now
each.
push away, Frank. Okay,
Middleweight
right.
championship, first round. Shamrock and Ortiz.
Go to guard, Frank, under guard. Get him off you. Get him off you, Frankie.
It'll become tactical at times. And remember, Shamrock, he's bulked up to 198, but still he gives away about 15 pounds.
He jokingly got on the scale and started emptying things out of his pockets, but he was fully clothed at 198.
Doing good.
Frank's philosophy is always to go out and give 100%. He doesn't stop, he doesn't rest, he just goes, and goes.
And look at him, he's just always moving. He may not get up, but Tito spends a lot of energy trying to keep him down, and that's what I think Frank wants to do. He wants to test Tito's shape.
Well, he has said about Tito, he's a big, strong wrestler, and he said he didn't see much else out of Tito, but Tito seemed to be happy to try to punch with him early. We've seen Tito throw some good punches.
Now, Tito felt that his stand-up ability is equal to Frank's, so he wanted to test that. I'm sure he doesn't feel his submission skills are equal to Frank's, but he feels that he can avoid submissions successfully.
Tito trying to work inside Frank Shamrock's guard. Now Shamrock with the closed guard. He's working the outside guard, unlike TK and Maurice, who use that TK guard, which is a bit different. Frank's got incredible flexibility.
Savvy, too, using his feet to try to adjust to get his head off the fence. This is a position for a ground and pound specialist. You want to be able to have a stationary target to throw punches at, and if you're bound up against the fence, that's what you become.
Oh, open hand. But still, Shamrock trying to listen to the advice of Maurice Smith. Shamrock trying to work up to his feet. And Ortiz delivers a couple of shots. Shamrock keeps him close, though.
Well, Ortiz is leaning on him, holding him to the fence. Now we'll see what kind of... he's going to keep him down.
Ortiz impressive here in the first round.
20 seconds, Frank, 20 seconds.
He's keeping the champion down on the mat and trying to work ground and pound tactics. Shamrock very active in his guard position. He's forcing Tito Ortiz to spend a lot of energy, and this may be something he wants to do, thinking that he might go into deficit later into the fight.
Oh, a strong finish to round 1 for Tito Ortiz.
This crowd is loving it. And this is a 5-round fight, a championship fight. A title bout will go 5 5-minute rounds. So there's lots of time to play with. Certainly that was not a dominant round by any means by either fighter, but it did look like the edge went to Tito Ortiz. Early in the first period, Frank trying a kick, Tito catching the leg, and when Frank tried to pull the leg back, lost his balance, Tito chose to keep it on the feet. And here Tito got behind Frank, and when he finally dropped him down, Frank turned to face him to try to get him into guard. And this was that one attempt at Tito's arm, Frank trying to hook it up, but Tito able to block it and get away. But look how quickly Frank returns to guard position to protect himself.
If there was any doubt in Tito's mind that he could truly hang with Frank, is that doubt gone now?
No, not yet. Conditioning is going to be the factor. Conditioning reigns supreme. If you take a break, we saw Kevin Jackson take a momentary break against Jerry Bolander, and bang, he got submitted. Nobody can take a break now in the octagon. No one. And these two guys are good. Whoa, Frank coming up high.
Part of the alliance, and I know he learned that from Ortiz Smith. We haven't seen Frank throw a lot of kicks. We've seen him throw some punches. He's trying some different things, working the game. And down he goes again.
And he doesn't mind this. Frank does not mind this being on his back. He may have given up a score of a takedown, whatever points the judges feel that is worthy of, and the takedown is scoring. But he is not afraid to be down here. He likes it down here. And I loved what he had to say in his bio. People get frightened from what they don't know. He has been in this position so many times with his partners in the Lions Den. He knows what to do here, so he is always unafraid. And Frank is a risk taker, and those that take risks find big rewards. You can find unsuccessful events happening, but you can also find that big reward. And that's what champs do. They take risks when they need to.
The crowd is on their feet here in Lake Charles, Louisiana.
Tito is not having his way with Frank. He is finding it difficult to work through Frank Shamrock's guard, and he's spending a lot of energy down there. Frank continues to be active in that guard. It's going to really put a test on Tito Ortiz's cardio. I think this is a ploy by Frank Shamrock. I really feel he feels he's in better shape, better cardio, better stamina, and that he wants to test Tito Ortiz.
Well, Frank has always said, and it is a direct quote from our champion, condition is my best submission hold. Now, Tito Ortiz has a wrestling background, and he appears to be in great shape. Ortiz Smith, part of the alliance, in the corner of Frank Shamrock. Lober and Spencer in the corner of Tito Ortiz.
Look how Frank accepts that power by Tito Ortiz. He just coils up and accepts it.
See, Tito tried to strike there, and Frank just got the big arms in front and none delivered.
This is what the tactic of guard is. Even with the inactive tactic, it's to make the inactive guard, it's to make the top man spend energy. And thus far, that's exactly what Frank has done.
Frank said he has never trained this hard as he has for this one. In a lot of different ways he's trained. He thinks it'll either be a very fast night, or he says, I am going to make it a very long one and beat the living stuff out of him. Not directly what he said. Those are some shots to the ribs of Frank Shamrock.
Now, Tito seems to be becoming a little more active now, pressing here in Frank Shamrock's guard to try to get some scoring in.
Again, I wonder though, Jeff, conditioning aside, does Tito's confidence get better and better as the fight goes on?
I think the two go together. As Pat Miletich said earlier, you know, if you are frustrated, it certainly accelerates how quickly you fatigue. Not only mentally, where you start to make mistakes mentally, but also physically, because you're unsure of what to do and you're all bound up with energy and you don't know how to spend it. And you wind up spending a lot of it inefficiently.
You're doing good.
Tito's working hard, but he's not getting a lot of scoring in, though he is controlling the action.
See how quickly, though, once he slid, he grabbed Frank and kept him close again. Smart move there, and he does consider himself a submission fighter.
And Frank is constantly communicating with his corner. He'll look over there and say something, and immediately Ortiz Smith passes the information on, and they come up with something to give back to Frank.
And Tito's got wrestling skills, as you know, two-time junior college champion. And Ortiz Smith again on looking. 40 seconds remaining in round 2. Busy fight so far, but neither fighter able to damage the other at this
30
point.
seconds, Frank. 30 seconds.
Tito Ortiz scored a takedown in this round. Other than that, there's not been a whole lot of scoring. Just a lot of motion, a lot of positioning, a lot of tactics, but nobody really coming clean with effective scoring.
Frank, a couple of shots. 8 seconds left. Frank trying to lift up his opponent, Tito Ortiz. Now he works the back. They both continue to go. Oh my!
Good job. That's all right to the back. You can't do the back of the head or neck.
And Tito complained that Frank did something to him, but John McCarthy's saying it's legal. I think he tried to punch him or elbow him there. Ortiz looks very calm and confident in his corner. Same as Frank Shamrock. They're both standing. Frank shifting leg from leg, but head down, just trying to relax, trying to remain focused. At the end of the round here, a lot of quick flurrying, both by Shamrock and Ortiz. There was a momentary lull, but watch how quickly here Frank will pull his hips out from under. He nods his head to his corner. He's communicating with his corner. He'll throw a punch, bang, and now he's going to come up. Nice job there by Shamrock to get to his feet, but Tito continued hanging on to the legs, and this is what killed Paul Jones earlier. Hanging on down below, carrying your own and your opponent's body weight, sucks up a lot of energy. But as I said, Tito looks very fresh in his corner, very composed, as does our champion, Frank Juarez.
Are you ready? Let's get
Shamrock.
Come on, doing good.
Now Tito said he's got some stand-up, but he knows that Frank's most dangerous skill is submission. But he doesn't think that Frank can out-wrestle him.
That was a nice
still his dangerous skill.
Right, and there was a nice inside-out kick by Shamrock. Now he's coming back from the outside.
Third round.
Oh,
a high kick again by Frank Shamrock. That's an element we haven't seen inside the octagon from Frank before. There's a knee that connected, and down it goes again.
Now, interestingly, I wonder how the judges will do that. They kind of, Frank tried in a takedown and then went down to the mat here, and they're all bound up.
See, Frank will try to shift his hips here again, won't he, Jeff?
Yeah, he's going to try to pull that left leg back through. Try to get to a half guard. He'll keep it here because he can keep Tito from improving his position. Can't really get good leverage on any of his strikes. And there, now he'll try to turn the face. Side mount by Tito Ortiz. Really what we call a headlock or an over-under pinning combination. But the position he's in, he has no weapons to really strike with. All he can do is try to smother, get a neck crank going.
Tito, you're fucking killing me. Relax and breathe right there, brother. Stay right there. Don't move. Stay right there. Drop your left shoulder deeper. Drop your left shoulder deeper. Right there. That's it. Right there. Yeah.
Oh, that right connected.
Now punch. Now
Frank was working the backside of Tito, and Tito snuck through and got it right. Now a short jab.
Yes, it was. It was a quick punch coming in. I really don't know how much power it had on it. Without any legs underneath it, it's an all-arm punch.
There have been chants of Tito. There are now chants of Shamrock. We have nearly reached the midway point of our 25-minute middleweight championship matchup between Frank Shamrock and Tito Ortiz.
Whoa, he gave him his back, and Tito not moving up. Frank immediately going back to guard.
There's the true athleticism and technique of Frank Shamrock.
To his credit, Ortiz did not bite on that open opportunity. Frank was looking for him to try to move up, and that's something Frank wants because he can scramble. Tito, as he said, not a master of submissions, but I can certainly stalemate him and avoid them. And he's relying on ground and pound tactics here.
Well, he's been the dominant as far as at least up on top, down on bottom, but yet Frank has also stayed very busy.
Oh yeah, Frank's very active. His guard position, he's constantly moving, constantly putting his feet in, constantly sitting up like this. And once again, he gives him his back. Tito riding him like a wrestling match right now.
And they're on their feet. Under 2 remains in the third. Frank Shamrock gets cut, left side of his face. Oh, that one got him. Left jab. A big bob from the outside. Frank with an uppercut and a combination.
And Tito's really breathing hard here, but he's still a great takedown artist. He gets him down. Let's see how active now Ortiz will be, or whether or not he's starting to fatigue.
They both exchange good punches there. Both deliver points.
Ortiz is going to move Shamrock's head towards the fence and try to bind him up.
With your right arm, pummel inside.
But Ortiz has slowed down here.
There you go, right there. Put your head on the other side. Put your head on the other side and pummel right
If Shamrock truly is looking for cardio superiority, he wants to push now, while Tito seems to be taking a break, resting a little bit, not being very active in Frank's guard. In fact, he's just hugging down by the head, locking his hands and staying there.
A lot of time remains here in the third round. Just under a minute now. Remember, Frank tried to finish strong in the second round, too. Leave that indelible last impression in the judge's mind.
That's gamemanship there. And Frank and Tito both have a world of experience, but Frank has competed overseas for years as well in Japan. And he understands the scoring game.
Former King of Pancrase in '95, submission champ for the WKC. 20 victories, many of them overseas.
Well, his whole evolution has been astonishing. One in the shadow of course, a great UFC fighter, Ken Shamrock. Then Ken Shamrock leaves and goes on to other endeavors, and Frank is now in charge of the Lions Den, where he feels he's babysitting, and it's impeding on his own personal progress as a fighter. He then leaves and forms the Alliance, and suddenly a Frank Shamrock middleweight champion is born. And from there he then gets married, and as I said earlier, where will this metamorphosis take us? And he's even added his name, Juarez, his original name. Here Frank, Tito almost riding him in a wrestling position, tried to go to his back and then eventually up onto his feet. And both of them, once they got to their feet, prodded the other. They wanted to see what each other had. And Frank with a big overhand right hits the shoulder. They trade knees. Uppercut by Shamrock. Uppercut by Ortiz. Excellent exchange.
Just one punch. And you got to move to the
Leon
right.
Tabbs, our veteran cut man, veteran of the sport of boxing from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, working on the cut above Frank Shamrock's eye. And Tito Ortiz trying to regain his oxygen during this 1 minute break as we are set for round number 4.
Use those knees and punches.
The last time Frank fought, he beat that man. In the background in the white jacket, white hat, John Machine Gun Lober.
Are you ready, Frank? Turn around.
Ortiz working with Lober to try and improve his submission skills.
And John Spencer working with him on Muay Thai. But any kicks so far that have been thrown have been by Frank Shamrock. And he almost gave his leg.
He doesn't mind that. As long as the kick scores, he doesn't mind that.
Right.
And those kicks are starting to leave an impression on Tito Ortiz. They're nice, another nice inside-out kick. And I think those are good because they can trip you up as well as cause some damage. Nice left stiff jab. And Ortiz's output has slowly dwindled.
Yeah. And Frank looks so white on his feet still, Jeff.
That's not to say Tito's still not dangerous, a very dangerous fighter, but it's definite now that his output has started to dwindle.
Frank feels it.
And Frank is starting to close the distance on the striking here. He's getting right in tight with Tito now.
Frank feels something, Jeff.
He knows he needs to start pushing the fight hard.
Frank taking the center of the ring. Tito working his way around the outside. It's a tactic always used by big brother Ken Shamrock. Come out, take the center of the ring.
Now Shamrock had a cut on the side of his head, but it doesn't appear to be bleeding now. Good corner work by the champion. And like a racing crew, it's a team effort. Everybody's got to do their thing. And Shamrock now walking into Ortiz and striking, but it's now Tito's turn. He returns to the double leg and takes the champ down.
And I think Tito was just just waiting for that opportunity.
And I believe Tito is now suffering from fatigue. We have not seen Ortiz fight this long in any fight. They're into it now, 17 full minutes. 3 minutes left in this round with 1 round remaining.
Longest fight of Frank Shamrock's UFC career was the overtime submission win over Jeremy Horn. 16:30 was the duration of that fight. Now that we've gone to the 5 rounds of 25 total minutes, 5 times 5, Jeff, we get into a situation where conditioning does go a lot longer than it could have in the past.
Absolutely. Except when we had those no time limit bouts, or half an hour time limit bout. Those were the longest bouts we ever had in the UFC.
Shamrock never had to experience that, nor did Ortiz. It goes all the way back to the Gracies, Shamrocks, Sevens, the great champions of the past. There has never been another middleweight champion other than the man right now working from his garden here, Frank Shamrock. He has been our only middleweight champion.
And Tito again able to keep Frank down, but Frank is forcing him to burn a lot of energy just to hold him down. And once again, we see Tito not using any kind of punching, not using any kind of striking, just hanging on.
That was great, guys.
1 minute, 39 seconds remaining in round number 4.
And again, Shamrock starting to move, trying to be active again. Tito hanging on tight to Shamrock's head. And Frank always works for inside control. He doesn't like to keep Ortiz's arms too close to his head without an arm somewhere laced in between. Those are all missing. Every one of those elbows missed. They're right in front of us, had a clean view of it. Each one missed. And a reversal. And now we're going to find out what kind of stamina Tito Ortiz has.
Shamrock trying to end it. Shamrock delivers shots. They're toe-to-toe. And Ortiz shoots it again. Tito avoids the big punches of Frank Shamrock. 37 seconds. Shamrock trying to work a choke. Frank tried to end it.
He certainly did. He got up, but that's a huge burst to put on late in the fight. And how much did that take out of Tito Ortiz? And they're in tight there, and he's got him over. Shamrock might go back to it.
15 seconds. Working Ortiz still.
And he's down.
It is over.
What a gutsy performance by the champ.
Frank Shamrock retains the middleweight title.
It looked to me as though Shamrock felt conditioning was going to be a factor. He stayed active in his guard throughout this fight. He constantly made Tito Ortiz work, and it eventually paid off very late in the fight. But certainly his stand-up skills have improved. Shamrock able to deal with Tito Ortiz on his feet, unafraid of taking risk, and because of that, he found that big reward we talked about.
Frank Shamrock, the greatest under 200-pound fighter in the mixed martial arts world. This is where he turns it around.
Shamrock constantly moving here. He wanted to continue to find ways to make Tito expend energy, and he never rested on the bottom. He never just stayed on his back. He wanted to continue to move, and here you see him doing that, and he eventually came up, and once he got up here, I felt that he really had to press the fight, and he did. He stood toe-to-toe with Tito, and Tito resorted to what he needed, and that was a takedown. But in doing so, he also got locked into somewhat of a guillotine choke, and by that, I think it started draining Tito quickly, and right then and there when he started punching and You could see Tito's hands tapping the mat. Tito conceded. He submitted to the champ.
And that is where, as you said, he lost the oxygen right there. As Frank Shamrock victorious and continues to be our middleweight champion. What a fight! And look at the respect shown by Tito Ortiz as we get the official word on this, our featured matchup, the marquee matchup, and there can only be one champion. And for that announcement, here's Bruce Buffer.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner by tap out at 4 minutes, 50 seconds in the 4th round for the winner and still UFC middleweight champion of the world, Frank Shamrock. Let's have a big hand for a very game warrior opponent in Tito Ortiz.
Inside a very busy octagon is Jeff Blatnick. Partner?
First of all, Frank, congratulations. I am just in awe of you as an athlete. What a tremendous fight. First off, your initial reaction on defending your title.
Well, it's always good to be back in the octagon, fighting for the fans and getting a little blood out. It went well.
Well, Frank, did you feel conditioning was a big factor in this fight? Did you remain so active in your guard to make Tito Ortiz fatigue?
Yeah, the whole plan was, he's got 20+ pounds on me. The whole thing was just beat him down, wear him out. It's my game past 15 minutes, so I knew once I got him there, I just had to light him up, and I got it going.
Frank, do you feel you're the best athlete ever to grace the octagon?
By far. Nobody trains harder, trains smarter, is more prepared, or has better people behind him than I do. No one's going to beat me ever till I get bored of this game.
Well, you've undergone a metamorphosis that has produced the most beautiful butterfly here in the octagon. You're married now. What's next for Frank Shamrock?
Well, that's my announcement I have to make. Originally I came here to challenge myself, to fight all comers, and I feel like I've done that. I mean, who's left? I'm good right now. Just retiring my belt, concentrating on my marriage, and doing a few other things. I spent a lot of time training. I'd like to get a few days off. I know Bob wants me to work and all. I think I'm gonna leave this belt in the ring here for the next crew to pick up and retire my title tonight.
Well, I'd like to introduce the president of SEG. He's the man that brings the Ultimate Fighting Championship to all you fans, Mr. Bob Myrowitz, for the presentation of the belt.
Well, first of all, that was just one of the greatest fights I've ever seen. And you are the greatest champion to ever grace the octagon. Truly amazing. This is the 5th time you've defended the championship. This is your belt. My friend, if you want to retire it, you take it home with you because you earned it more than anybody else ever has. The greatest champion in our history.
Thanks, Bob.
A pleasure to watch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. You mind if I say a few things, Jeff?
I have no problem with it.
I'm always a little long-winded. I want to dedicate this fight to a little girl named Angela Espinosa. She's got a little bit of cancer, and she's fighting pretty hard right now. I want to dedicate this fight to her because this fight in here was nothing compared to what she's going through. I also want to thank my trainers. People think it's me that's a great fighter. I'm a pretty good athlete. I've got some fabulous trainers. There's a whole lot of people behind me. I know I'm the only one standing here with a belt on, but if I get every one to those guys, I certainly would.
Congratulations, Frank. You deserve that title.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks to all my fans out there. You guys are awesome.
Okay, Mr. Goldberg, Mikey, back to you.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and I'm glad because it seemed as if Frank may have called it a close, and we have reopened the books. If he can find a challenger, Frank Shamrock will fight in the UFC again. But I'll tell you what, as impressive as any athlete ever to come inside our world-famous gates. And it was a wonderful night, again, capped off by our wonderful championship this evening. Don't forget, every day, log on to eYada.com for the greatest in talk and entertainment, and soon a second channel for all of the UFC and the sporting in the world. And, of course, our UFC official site is www.seg.com. This is how Frank Shamrock once again defended his title. He did it with great discipline, great emotion, and in the end, he was able to take it to a very game Tito Ortiz. Frank Shamrock is clearly the greatest fighter in mixed martial arts history. If anyone disagrees, that is the opinion of most. If anyone disagrees, Frank has openly said he will welcome all challengers. A special night with some special fights, some heavyweights who made debuts, but this night belonged to the middleweights, and that middleweight in particular, Frank Juarez Shamrock. still the champion. Tito Ortiz, classy in defeat, throwing the shirt with the name Frank Shamrock on his back and showing Shamrock the respect that he earned tonight. And Tito just looked at me and shook his head and said, hey, I gave it my best. But this man is absolutely awesome. Will Frank Shamrock fight another day? Everyone in the UFC keeps their fingers crossed and hope so. For Jeff Blatnick, our entire UFC crew, I'm Mike Goldberg saying, so long, Frank's still the champ.